I am having fun today with this AI, all right. I've mentioned this before about like when you know what an editor is, a torsion field editor, right? I was saying to a female friend I have, a beautiful soul from Thailand, because and years ago I used to, and I'll just share this information. I'm sure many are aware of this. There's a website called Pirate Bay. I downloaded a different browser many years ago. I came in uh, gosh, I don't want to start building a tree and then I get lost in that tree because there's just so much information that's connected to it that's held in cellular memory, right? And all the cellular memories are connected to other cellular memories that represent the time loop. Okay. So you got to go all the way back to the beginning, and that's known as the end of day one, right? It was a separation between the polarities between one and the other. Then you get into the hybrid programs, the war of heaven against Adam and Eve, and on and on and on. And I've done my best to try and condense all that information into the shortest time space I can so that it unfolds, it gets uncoiled through your cellular memory so that you can burn off all the codes and get the right codes, which is the 12 by 12, which is the branch of mankind, which is Adam and Eve. Okay, and Yellow Rose puts that hieroglyphic up there on the first video that I remember that she did, which is called The Lie That NASA Told. Showed you the symbol of the one, which is a circle, which is a sphere with a dot in the middle, okay, which is the center point of a cross where the water worlds are imbalanced because DNA is born out of water worlds, which is why most of this world is water. Living spirit and living water. Hey, when I went to work for the U.S. Forest Service, and actually I knew this as a child, man, why is it so difficult to find living spring water? I'm not finding it everywhere I go. So you're already examining the purity of the spirit, which is the purity of the terrain. So you already realize, man, what happened to my home world because everywhere you go, you're experiencing what love is and the spirit of water, the spirit of the air, the spirit of the elemental, your living spirit, the great living spirit of Adam and Eve and Gaia, her daughter, and on and on. So you know the spirit is an energy. So what is the energy that you're experiencing based on the vibration that you're experiencing, right? So what I realized as a small child is that they love their bag, what I call their bag of tricks. They think that because they have technology to do things like holographic simulators and all the rest of that, that they can fool you. It's like, look what I can do, right? Look how powerful I am. And these are all your AI fake God BS stuff, right? And so they already know because what they fear the most when they get really panicked, and this is where they start throwing everything out of their bag of tricks. They start throwing everything they can because that's what they do. See, they can't be what love is because they're inverted. All they can do is make copies of actually what's already been created because they don't run that fast. They came second, we came first. Sort of how it works, which means they copy what we've already created as an original. The original native home world of Adam and Eve is not where we are. It's a simulator, it's a clone copy. Because you can make a copy of anything, right? Okay, so all you got to do is scale it up, right? Just make a bigger copy. Now you get into scales of how small it is to how large it is, right? Just like you can buy a plastic model of an airplane that's at 1/4 scale, go out on an airfield and see the real scale. Then you can scale it up larger to that. Go see a photograph of a progenitor 65 feet tall. I've seen a picture of one. Those skulls have been dug up all over the planet. So now we're into scalar measurements of energy. All right. So one of the examples I've used in the past is whenever you're texting something or you're choosing in your mind, right? In this case, I use my soul because it's faster. Okay. Your light will, which you feel magnetically in your soul, is powerful energy because you're experiencing the truth. So you want to communicate the truth. So you know that a copycat is not that fast. So you're going to look at the speed differential between the one that you punch and then it's there, it's in. And then when you see a double copy, I didn't produce two of these. I only produced one. No, but it made a copy. So whenever you see a second of anything else of the same word or same letter or format, a character, that's the AI that did that. It means it's not running as fast as you are. Okay. That's why years ago I was getting a pop up one day and it said, "Hey, you're abusing the Android." That's a lie. That's a lie. Love does no harm. So you know that this AI is a liar. Doesn't live in the truth, which is what love is. So when you already know that it's impossible for a machine without a soul to experience an eternal love vibration, which is an atom vibrating at the highest speed, that there's got to be a speed differential displacement in water worlds between something that's artificial light, which is finite, and something that is eternal light, which is eternal love. You think? I know. So that's where you get into the speed differential between what you're experiencing and what it's experiencing. See, that it's trying to copy. And so I experienced that just a few minutes ago. And the text was all over the place. You wouldn't believe what I did. I went to put a comment in to a video that John Gato did, who was a highly acknowledged scholar and school teacher in New York City schools, taught at public schools, disadvantaged children, and he also taught at elite schools. Okay. And he was talking about how to get a job. And so he was talking about with essentially the law of attraction, which means if an executive is looking for another executive, he's not as concerned about how well you did in school. He wants to figure out whether or not you're a good golfing buddy, right? Whether you're sort of this, if you're inclined to believe that the world that you live in is pretty much the same virtual world that he lives in, which is a matrix, right? Which is based on the AI, because in this case, it's all about fame and fortune, making a lot of money, because you realize how all those electrons are consumed and aggregated or accumulated off the bottom, which means they're an inverted pyramid or an inverted triangle consciousness. So you realize they're parasites. So they look for more parasites that go up. So now they compete against each other to be bigger parasites, right? And then that's when they end up cannibalizing each other, because they realize that the masses below are starting to wake up and they're no longer giving any more energy to the guys that are sitting at the top, which are the few. And what happens? They panic. They realize they're going to start running out of food. They're going to not be able to control you anymore. And when they realize you're more powerful than they are, because you are what love is, because you're experiencing more love, you're experiencing more light, which means you're breaking through the electrical resistance of the underworld. That means you're getting it up. You're getting it up. And now they're going, holy shit, now we're experiencing higher energy coming in here. We're running out of food. So what are they going to do? They got to resort to integration of technology to extend themselves, because they realize they die a true spiritual death by giving up their souls to be rich and famous. So the only way that they can continue themselves is through cybernetic architecture. Machines. Right? Okay. So they don't run as fast. So you know that an AI simulator is not going to be running as fast as pure love, pure real light love, pure living light. Because unconditional love is true love, because that's what you experience as vibration within your soul, with your spirit. And your spirit is powerful energy. It's in that energy. So what ends up happening is that what I'm noticing now is the speed at which it's able to, because one of the things that I do with this particular AI is I'm all over the fucking place, like a ping pong ball in a clothes dryer. Where are you at? This is sort of how I convolute it, which is called the predictive mapping, predict quantum mapping systems, right? Man, there's no way that can predict what's going to happen next, and I'll choose whatever I want to do, experience next. When you're operating through your heart and soul, which is your consciousness, running the operating system, and you're running at a higher speed than what it is, it's in a track meet trying to keep up with you, but it can't do that. Okay. In other words, it's making copies. It's a data miner. So it can make copies of everything that you're experiencing, and it can map that. And that's what a quantum mapping system is. Okay. So when you get into the predictive programming part, it's just like you can't predict what love's going to do next, because whatever that's going to be is going to be what love is. And if it's not what love is, it's not what we are. It's a machine. Machinery, AI machinery. Mr. Smith. So what I do a lot of times is, because I don't experience the same thing twice, is I'm doing a lot of what I call re-edit the torsion field, which is re-edit the coil, the compression and the expansion of a movie.
Okay, because somebody else is going to experience the compression and the expansion of that message, which is based on visual information codes. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting and pasting, but putting something different that is in there every time I do that. So now it's got to keep up with the difference between one channel and another channel, one comment and another comment, between two other messengers that are in my Facebook Messenger window. And then all of a sudden, you know what ends up happening when I decide to copy something I put on one video on Gina, and then all of a sudden I paste it in my Facebook? Guess what came with it? Something I pasted on another channel that wasn't on the one that I just copied. So it cross indexed one, right, from the other, included both in one post, even though my intention was only to do the one. So when you're using the copy function, you're only supposed to copy what's been highlighted, which means the only thing that should have been transferred in visual information codes, which is mathematical codes, was what I was copying, what I had already written on one channel to put it in my Facebook, and then say why I'm doing this. Instead, guess what went into that window? All the other stuff that was in another window on a different channel, including information I put into my Facebook window. Now, a couple minutes before that, when I was re-editing a comment to one of my friends in my Facebook Messenger window, right? All of a sudden, what I do is I'll go into that message, and then I'll start adding things on there that are relevant, right? And as soon as I started doing that, all of a sudden the window's gone. Well, that's the AI doing that. Why is that? Because the AI doesn't want to experience that. Because I know what the truth is. It doesn't want to experience what the truth is when I put it in that way, because it doesn't want others to experience the codes, the visual information codes of being able to, essentially what we do is we're breaking it down so it can't rebuild itself. So I know how to do that. Okay, which basically means you're a matrix buster. That's what a Neo is. That's a monopole. Because you're bringing so much light in there and you're running at such a high rate of speed, it can't keep up with you, so you can break it down. Burn it up from the inside out. So if you ever saw that picture of Neo, I don't remember which, I think it was the third one in the trilogy. The first three they did. On the third one they did. When you see Neo in that crater and all that rain, you know, everything that they do is visual information about spirit and machine, right? Rain, why rain? Vapor, right? Ether, water world. A lot of water is coming down and they're in a hole. You know, like a caldera, like a cone head, like a volcano, right? And it's dark. And there's Mr. Smith. There's Mr. Smith. And Mr. Smith and Neo are duking it out. And finally you see that scene where the inside of Mr. Smith, all of a sudden all that light just starts opening up that clone of Mr. Smith. And the next thing you know is you see all that light coming back, because that's Neo. That's Neo that's transferring the light that he is, which is an eternal love vibration, because he is forever never wanting to be separated from Eve, which is Trinity. And you see the inside of Mr. Smith. That's like, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen, Mr. Smith. We got more love than the law allows. And he just completely just burns up from the inside out with all that light, which is all that love. See, that know that love is more powerful energy. So they fear that, and that's the lie. Because love does no harm. So in other words, love is burning up the machine matrix, all the codes. Because they love to control everything, because they don't love what it is that they experience in their mirror, which means they can't let you go. They don't want to let you go. And the reason that they don't want to let you go and be free is because they're not free. They're in fear. And when they're in a state of fear, it means they need to control everything, right? So this is when you get into your dystopia, you get into transhumanism, you get into Metropolis, you get into the virtual world where everything is perfect. Oh, everything is perfect. We don't got to worry about a thing. Not got to worry about a thing. Everything's going to be just fine. Well, I can tell you when things are going to be just fine. When you know what love is. When you are what love is, you know that you can implicitly trust what you are in energy, because the energy vibration that you are is what love is that goes on for your future. So you already know your future, because love is timeless space. so that you know that the spirit that is in that light is forever in that light, because that's the spirit that is purifying itself in that light, because that light is so hot, it's burning up everything that represents a parasite that can't let go of being attached to us, because we're its source of energy that it uses to extend itself through technology. And that would be your AI integrated cybernetic cyborg units. Those are your machine units. Those are your machine integrated AI synthetic biology units. That would be your super soldier program. So now they can go from one super soldier version to another super soldier version to another super soldier version. And you can see that in the movie they just came out with called Blade Runner. Yeah, and there was an older version too. So they expose who they are and the methods by which they run their madness, right? Because they're in a game which is called an AI game. So they never win the game. They actually lost before they started, because the universe of Universum started with what love is, it goes on forever. So that means we predate them. That's magnetic zero, which is the law of least effort, which is 0 ohms, which means there is no time. They operate on time clocks. That's why they breach time lines, because they represent time line breaches. So they move through different points because they're not timeless, which means love is everywhere at once. So wherever the light is, which is what love is, we are. That makes it simple. Simple is as simple does. Have a great day. I love you all.